Have you ever had that feeling? You know, that little voice in the back of your head that says everything, your health, your peace of mind, maybe even the whole world is just balanced on a knife's edge? It's this super common anxiety we all seem to share, this feeling of being fragile. Well, today we're going to dive right into that feeling, pull it apart, and figure out how to turn it into maybe our greatest strength.
Check this out. This comment from a Reddit user just nails it. They said that with our bodies and minds being so delicate, it feels miraculous that anything goes right at all, right? One little accident, one really bad day, and everything can just change. It's that raw, relatable fear that we're all just one step away from things completely falling apart.
And that leads us to a really fascinating question. We're so trained to think of fragility as a bad thing, a weakness we have to protect. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if all the pressures and the stresses that show us how fragile we are, what if they're actually doorways to becoming stronger than we ever were before? So let's break down how we deal with pressure. First, you've got fragile. We all know what that is. It's like a glass vase. You drop it, it shatters. Simple. Then there's resilient, which is what most of us shoot for, right? It's the ability to get hit and bounce back to where you started. But what if there's another level? Happiness scholar Tal Ben-Shahar calls this being antifragile. This is where you don't just survive the pressure, you actually use it as fuel to grow. You get bigger, better, and stronger because of it. The best way to wrap your head around this is to think about the gym. When you lift weights, you're literally putting your muscles under stress. They tear a little bit, but they don't just repair themselves, they grow back stronger. That's a perfect physical example of antifragility. Well, there's a psychological version of this, and it's called post-traumatic growth. It's this amazing idea that after we go through really hard times, we don't just recover, we can actually grow, find new meaning, and become stronger people. It is, quite literally, psychological antifragility. So let's zoom out for a second. If this whole idea works for us as people, what happens when we apply it to the huge systems we're all a part of? Can entire societies, whole civilizations be fragile in the same way? Well, if you look at history, the answer is a huge, resounding yes. From the Roman Empire to the Mayans, it turns out civilizations are incredibly fragile systems. And historians have found these patterns, these same stressors that keep popping up and pushing societies to their breaking point. Things like environmental disasters, new diseases, massive inequality, and, just losing that sense of being in it together. And this isn't some rare thing that happens once in a blue moon. Get this. One analysis that looked at dozens of ancient civilizations calculated their average lifespan to be just 340 years. That's it. It's a recurring pattern throughout all of human history, and it really drives home just how delicate these massive systems truly are. And okay, just as a thought experiment, let's take this one last giant leap. We've gone from you and me to entire civilizations. But what about the fragility of humanity itself? Can we use this idea to think about the lifespan of our whole species? This is where things get a little wild. It leads to a mind-bending thought experiment called the doomsday argument. Now, stay with me. This is not a prediction, it's more of a statistical puzzle. It goes like this. Imagine there's a giant list of every single human who will ever live, from the first to the last. If you were picked at random from that list, where would you probably be? Well, statistically, you'd most likely be somewhere in the middle, right? Not at the very, very beginning. The argument suggests that since we're alive now, it's just statistically more probable that we're somewhere in the middle of humanity's story, rather than at the very, very start of a story that's going to last for millions of years. It's a trippy way to think about our collective fragility, for sure. Okay, so we've gone from that anxious feeling in our gut all the way out to these massive existential questions. It's a lot, I know. So let's reel it all the way back in. Let's bring it back home. In a world full of fragile people, fragile societies, and fragile futures, how do we, you and me, actually find strength? How do we become anti-fragile? Well, this is where we run into something called the paradox of happiness. It's so interesting. Research actually shows that the people who actively chase happiness, who make being happy their main goal, they often end up less happy. Tal Ben-Shahar has this beautiful metaphor for it. Trying to find happiness directly is like staring straight at the sun. It's too bright, it hurts, and you can't see anything. But if you break that sunlight down into its parts, the colors of the rainbow, you can look at them, appreciate them, and see all their beauty.
So what are these colors of the rainbow for a happy, anti-fragile life? Ben Shahar gives us a really simple framework called the SPIRE model. It just breaks down our well-being into 5 core pieces we can actually focus on, one by one, to build a life that's not just happier, but way more robust. So let's quickly walk through them. Okay, first up, S is for spiritual. And hey, this doesn't have to mean religion at all. It's simply about having a sense of purpose. When you feel like what you're doing actually matters, whether that's your job, your family, a passion project, it gives you a really powerful why. It's the fuel that helps you push through when things get tough. Next up, P is for physical. And this one is a huge mindset shift. So listen up. Stress is not the enemy. Just like those weights in the gym, stress is actually what helps us build strength. The real problem, the thing that breaks us down, is the lack of recovery. If we don't get that rest, whether it's a good night's sleep, a vacation, or just a 5-minute break to breathe, we never give our bodies and minds the chance to adapt and grow stronger. Then we've got I for intellectual. This one's all about staying curious. It's about asking why and actually wanting to know the answer. It could mean getting lost in a good book, learning something new, or just paying real attention to the world around you. And get this, research shows that curious people aren't just happier, they also tend to live longer. How cool is that? R is for relational. And honestly, if you only remember one of these, make it this one. The single biggest predictor of happiness, and this is backed up by decades of research, is the quality time we spend with people we care about and who care about us. These connections are our safety net. They are the number one thing that helps us grow through hardship. And finally, E is for emotional. A healthy, fulfilling life is not about being happy 24/7. As Ben Shahar says, only 2 kinds of people never experience painful emotions: psychopaths and dead people. The goal is to give ourselves permission to be human, to feel sad or anxious or angry and know that it's okay. And at the same time, we can actively work on cultivating positive emotions, like gratitude. Just taking a moment to think about what you're thankful for literally rewires your brain to spot the good things in your life. This quote just brings it all home so perfectly. It's not about being blindly optimistic and thinking everything happens for a reason. No, it's about recognizing that tough things are going to happen, that pressure is part of life. But we have the power to choose how we respond, to learn from it, to adapt, and to actively make the best of whatever comes our way. And that brings us to the final question, which is really for you. We live in a world that feels fragile, from our own lives to the societies we're part of. But knowing what we know now, that pressure doesn't have to break us, that it can actually build us. The question is, how will you choose to grow stronger?